Well, blessings, everyone. This is Apostle Dr. Craig A. Ponder Sr., author, lecturer, and Chancellor of Kingdom Development Institute. And I want to personally thank you for requesting these free coaching videos. I'm excited to share some powerful nuggets with you and change your life. But first, please make sure to write down our phone number, 1-800-681-3284. You can also visit us online at www.kdionline.org, or you can email us at info@www.kdionline.org. Did you know that one of the top reasons why people fail? Number one, lack of being prepared. Number two, not having a duplicatable step-by-step system. You see, all successful people have one thing in common: a coach, a mentor, a trainer, a counselor, or an advisor. You take somebody like Michael Jordan, Mariah Carey, Tiger Woods, Donald Trump. All of these people pay other experts to help them become better at what they do and what they specialize in. So I'm so glad that you requested these free videos. We're going to talk about 8 wealth tips. 8 wealth tips. And I want to talk with you about briefly, what does the number 8 mean? The number 8 by itself, if you take 7 plus 1, this number specifically is associated with resurrection and regeneration and the beginning of a new era or a new order. In other words, the number 8 represents new beginnings. Also, the number 8 is a very powerful number because it represents circumcision. You see, on the 7th day, God rested after building creation, or on the 8th day, He rested. And that is the reason why that on the 8th day, the children were to be taken and dedicated to God, and the flesh, or the excess flesh that wasn't necessary, was to be cut off. Also, again, the firstborn was to be given to Jehovah on the 8th day. Just giving you some information, but we're talking about 8 wealth tips. Say that with me. Say 8 wealth tips. Now, when we talk about wealth tips, I'm going to give you tip number 1. You should be more interested than interesting. In other words, getting to know people. When you're talking to someone, you should be asking them more questions about them, who they are, and what they do, instead of telling them everything about you. You can always go in a room and pan a room and see who's not a wealthy person, because non-wealthy people are always talking about them. You're never going to get anybody to buy from you, listen to you, or want something from you until you first find out who they are and what's important to them. Wealth tip number 2. I want to encourage you to become a kingdompreneur or an infopreneur. In other words, you should be spending 1 to 3 hours every day reading, researching, learning, coming to Kingdom Development Institute and letting us teach you and educate you on how to become rich and wealthy. Tip number 3, become a sorter. You see, amateurs convince, but professionals sort. Every day you should be sorting through your time, people, what you're going to do, what emails you're going to read. Every day it's about sorting. If you don't sort, then amateurs are always convincing themselves to do something or not to do something. Tip number 4, stop complaining. In other words, live your life excuse-free. Okay? That's really, really important, because a real leader takes responsibility. You know why you don't have any more? Because you don't have any more. Stop wasting time. Tip number 5, do what others won't do. Oh boy, I'm going to say that again. When I first started off in my financial career years ago, I would drive 200 miles to get to one appointment. And everybody in my office thought I was crazy. And I would tell my manager, when I had one back then, Give me leads where nobody's willing to drive. And I remember I used to have this nice looking guy that would sit next to me, and one day he was smelling me. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Boy, you always smell good and your breath is always fresh. What kind of gum do you chew, and what kind of cologne do you have on?" And the reason why I'm telling you this guy drove a Mercedes. He looked perfect, played golf every day, but he had a 2-mile radius. In other words, he told me that he wouldn't drive beyond 2 miles of his home. Let me tell you, he's not even in business anymore. He didn't even make it 6 months. You know why? He thought I was crazy and foolish to drive 2 hours, 6 hours. But guess what? If you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, so what do? Start earlier. Go beyond your own comfort zones. Okay? Same thing in ministry. My wife and I, my family and I, we're willing to fly, to drive, to sow, to give, to bless, to prophesy. We're willing to get to people in order to see if this is a God-ordained connection. You know why? Because we know that the average Christian won't do it. That's tip number 5. Now, tip number 6, be yourself. You see, people of God, there's only one of you. And when you realize that God made you and He didn't make any mistakes, you're not the wrong color, you're not the wrong size, not the wrong gender, and you certainly weren't born on the wrong side of the tracks. And let's say you were. You know what? Just step over on the other side. In other words, this is what we teach people. There's no such thing when you talk about the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That is a fact. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. You know what you do? Tip number 6, just change sides. In other words, be yourself. Be who God created you to be. Amen? And then tip number 7, have some class. Dress right. You see, normally every time you see me, I'm always dressed up. It was so funny. We were at our boat this past weekend, Kingdom Living, and we had met some pastors. And it's the only time I don't dress up because I was standing in line at Starbucks, and I was joking with the pastor. He had on a nice suit, and I had on my nice boat clothes. And I said, "Pastor, I apologize, I'm not dressed up." I said, "The only time I don't dress up is when we come down to our boat so my boat neighbors won't think I'm a snob." And this guy in the line laughed because he owned a boat. And my point is, be yourself. Know how to have some class. Dress up. There's a time to look good, and there's a time to relax. Remember, when you step out of the house, you never know who you're going to bump into, who you're going to meet, and you might have that one opportunity to impress. Remember, first impressions are first impressions. Amen? In other words, have some class. Dress right and act right when you come out of the house. Amen? And then finally, tip number 8. Tell people what you want and expect from them. Amen? When I meet with people, when I talk with people, I say, look, like we met with some pastors, again, this past weekend, and we were talking, and I said, "Well, Pastor," I said, "where do we go from here?" He said, "Man," we started talking, and we narrowed it down, and we came up with a formula for his success, came up with a date, we came up with what we were going to do, and I said, "Listen, this is your church, this is your territory, and so guess what? I'm going to come, my staff, my family and I, we're going to come, and we're going to do what's best for you." In other words, remember tell them what you want. Tell them how you can help them, and make sure you're able to do that. Do not beat around the bush when it comes to money, and do not beat around the bush when it comes to success and helping people. Look them right in the eye fearlessly and tell them what you want. Now again, those are the 8 wealth tips. And let me give you a brief definition of what the word wealth means. It is an income stream that never stops, never runs out, or falls short. It lasts, and therefore it is generational. It's lasting. Wealth can never be earned, can never be won, it can never be discovered, and it can never be created. I know we've been taught some of these things at church, but guess what? You can never build wealth. You cannot create it. You know how you get it? You must obtain it. If you weren't born into wealth, then you have to learn, how do I obtain it? That'll be for another coaching video. But wealth can only be achieved in one way. Watch this. I'll go ahead and give it to you now. Wealth comes 2 ways. Number 1, comes through attraction. Just like I told that pastor this past weekend, when my wife and I sat down, I gave him the 2 keys of wealth. I said, "Pastor, number 1, attraction." I said, "You see us sitting here talking? We had one meeting, we met each other one time, and we were attracted to each other." And then number 2, write this down. Go to the bank with this. Here's the second key of wealth. solving problems. When I sat there and spoke to that pastor, I spoke boldly and I spoke confidently to him. And I said, Pastor, I didn't have to tell him I could solve his problems. He heard what I said because as I was speaking to him, I was sorting, is he the one? Can I help him? Will he take me up on my offer? And then he said, you can help me. So people of God, we want to thank you for listening to us today as I was sharing these 8 wealth tips. I'm going to give you 4 free things here as we close. There are 4 things that every successful, prosperous, wealthy family must possess. And everybody in your household should possess these 4 things. Number 1 is confidence. Number 2 is boldness. Number 3 is authority. And number 4 is excitement. Again, I've just given you 8 wealth tips, but you're never going to obtain your wealth until you understand and possess these 4 things: confidence, boldness, authority, and excitement. Psalms 115 verse 14 says this: the Lord shall increase you more and more, you and your children. Well, KDI can help you learn how to become a certified expert, get paid a high 6-figure annual income. So if you're ready to unlock a better future, please request a Kingdompreneur enrollment packet today. You can visit us online at www.kdionline.org. Give us a call at 1-800-681-3284. Again, this is Apostle Dr. Craig A. Ponder Sr., Chancellor of Kingdom Development Institute. Success to you and success to the kingdom. God bless you.